To truly see into another person is to enter onto holy ground. It requires a fundamental shift in our paradigm, moving away from the personality ethic, the quick fixes, and the communication techniques, and toward a deep-rooted character ethic. You see, most of us listen with the intent to reply. We are filled with our own rightness, our own autobiographical responses. We filter everything through our own lenses. But when we talk about the weight of unspoken truths, we are talking about the courage to listen with the intent to understand. We are talking about empathetic listening. When you stand before another human soul and you begin to perceive the words they aren't saying, you are engaging in a high leverage activity. It is a form of psychological air. If you take the air out of a room, you can't talk about success or productivity or win solutions. You can only think about breathing. Many people in our lives are spiritually gasping for air. They are carrying heavy burdens, private battles, silent griefs, and quiet aspirations that they have tucked away behind a facade of. Fine. They feel misunderstood, and therefore, they feel alone. When you make the conscious choice to see into them, you are looking for the third alternative. You are looking past the surface level behavior, perhaps their irritability, their withdrawal, or their defensive posture, and you are seeking the primary greatness that resides within them. It is a heavy thing to realize that every person you meet is a protagonist in a grand, often difficult, drama. They are fighting battles you know nothing about. To see into them is to acknowledge that their behavior is often a function of their unmet needs. This depth of perception requires us to be response-able. Between the stimulus of their silence or their struggle and your response, there is a space. In that space lies your power to choose a response that validates their worth. When you hear the unspoken, you are building a massive deposit in their emotional bank account. You are saying, without words, I value you. I respect your internal reality. You are not invisible. It feels heavy because it requires us to set aside our own egos. It requires us to be vulnerable enough to be influenced ourselves. We cannot seek to be understood until we have first truly sought to understand. This is the essence of interdependence. We are not just isolated individuals. We are part of a human fabric where our ability to see one another determines the quality of our collective lives. As you sit with someone and the silence stretches between you, don't rush to fill it with your own advice. Instead, let the weight of their unspoken truth settle. Recognize that by simply witnessing their internal struggle, by seeing the person behind the problem, you are practicing the highest form of human leadership. You are moving from a world of to a world of thou. And in that transition, the potential for true, transformative synergy is born. When we consider the mirror of shared humanity, we must realize that our perception of others is often a projection of our own internal maps. To see into another person is to confront the reality that we are cut from the same cloth. We often live in a state of independence, thinking we are islands, but the truth of the human condition is deep interdependence. When you look into the eyes of a struggling colleague or a distant family member, you are not looking at a problem to be solved, but a soul that shares your same fundamental needs for meaning, security, and contribution. If you look closely enough, you stop seeing a stranger, and you begin to see the reflections of your own fears, your own hopes, and your own untapped resilience. This is a profound shift in paradigm. It is moving from it to I thou. Most of us spend our lives judging others by their behavior, while judging ourselves by our intentions. But when we embrace the mirror of shared humanity, we begin to extend the same grace to others that we so desperately crave for ourselves. We recognize that the other is just another version of us in a different set of circumstances. This realization is the foundation of genuine empathy. It requires us to look past the superficial differences of social status, race, or opinion, and tap into the universal principles that govern us all. It is about recognizing that the software of our emotions and the hardware of our spirits are remarkably similar. Seeing this reflection requires a high degree of self-awareness. You cannot see the light in others if you are unwilling to acknowledge the shadows within yourself. If we are filled with pride or prejudice, the mirror becomes distorted. We see only what we want to see. But if we approach this connection with humility, we find that the other person's struggle is a teacher. Their resilience reminds us of our own strength. Their vulnerability invites us to be more authentic. We start to understand that the enemy is often just someone whose story we haven't heard yet. This level of connection is a high leverage activity because it builds the bond of trust that makes everything else possible. When people feel that you see yourself in them, they drop their defenses. They no longer feel the need to protect their territory. Instead, they open up to synergy, to the idea that together we can create something far greater than we ever could alone. We are talking about the what instead of the me. When you truly see the shared humanity in another, you are not just witnessing their life. You are affirming the very principles of love and respect that give life its meaning. You are acknowledging that we are all walking each other home, navigating the same treacherous waters with the same fragile boats, guided by the same eternal stars of truth and conscience. To go even deeper, we must learn to navigate beyond the social mask. We live in a society that emphasizes the personality ethic, a focus on public image, social skills, and positive mental attitude. While these have their place, they are often mere representative selves that we project to the world to maintain safety or status, but real connection, the kind that creates lasting synergy, requires us to look past this curated facade to the primary greatness of the individual. Most of us are walking around with a script that we didn't even write, playing a role that society, or perhaps our upbringing, has handed us. When we interact mask to mask, we are merely transacting. We are not transforming. Breaking through this mask is a matter of character, not technique. You cannot fake a deep interest in another person. They will sense the manipulation. It requires a genuine desire to see the raw soul underneath. Think of the social mask as the secondary greatness, the titles, the degrees, the outward successes. These are the things the world rewards, but they do not define the human spirit. If we only interact with the mask, we are missing the most vital part of the person, we are missing their hopes, their deep-seated values, and the unique contribution they are meant to make. We must have the courage to ask the second-level questions, to move the conversation from the what to the why and the who. When you acknowledge the soul underneath, you create a space of safety. People only remove their masks when they feel they won't be judged for what lies beneath. If your internal compass is set to criticism or comparison, you will never see past the representative. But if you lead with a win heart, you signal to the other person that their authentic self is not only welcome, but necessary. This is the essence of effective leadership in the home, in the office, and in the community. It is about affirming the worth and potential of others so clearly that they are inspired to see it in themselves. We must remember that the mask is often a defense mechanism against a world that doesn't listen. If we want others to be authentic, we must first be authentic ourselves. This is the inside-out approach. We cannot expect a harvest of vulnerability if we haven't sown the seeds of our own honesty. By being willing to admit our own mistakes and share our own journeys, we give others the permission to do the same. This doesn't mean a lack of professional boundaries. It means a commitment to human sincerity. Ultimately, looking beyond the social mask is an act of love. It is a refusal to settle for a shallow relationship. It is an investment in the emotional bank account that yields the highest possible interest, a relationship built on truth and mutual growth. When you stop talking to the representative and start talking to the person, you unlock a level of creativity and cooperation that is simply impossible in a mask-to-mask world. You begin to see that every individual is a reservoir of untapped potential, waiting for someone with the vision to see past the surface and the patience to wait for the soul to emerge now. As we sharpen the saw of our perception, we must confront the immense responsibility that comes with intuition. Gaining a clear view into someone's heart is not a tool for control. It is a sacred trust. It is an inside-out stewardship. When you develop the capacity to sense the unspoken nuances of another's spirit, you are holding a key to their most private sanctuary. This intuition is a manifestation of your own character and your commitment to principles. It demands a high level of integrity and absolute non-judgment. For to see clearly is to see without the distorting lens of our own agendas. If our motive is not pure, if we seek to use our insight for manipulation or personal gain, we violate the most fundamental laws of human interaction. We are building our house on sand. Intuition without integrity is a dangerous weapon, but intuition guided by a win philosophy becomes a powerful catalyst for healing. It requires us to govern ourselves by the same principles we hope to see in others. We must be loyal to those who are absent and fiercely protective of the vulnerabilities shared with us. In the presence of our silent understanding, to see into someone is to become a guardian of their dignity. This responsibility means we must check our own emotional bank accounts before we ever attempt to influence. Have we made enough deposits of kindness and respect to earn the right to perceive their deeper truths? If the trust is low, our intuition will be met with defensiveness. But where trust is high, Intuition acts as a bridge. It allows us to speak to the potential in someone that they may not even see in themselves. It is a form of servant leadership, using your insight to uplift, to clarify, and to empower. We must also recognize that true sight is always rooted in non-judgment. The moment we begin to categorize or label what we see, we stop seeing the person and start seeing our own prejudices. True intuition is a state of open, humble awareness. It is a willingness to say, I see your struggle, and I do not condemn it. This lack of judgment is the only environment in which a human soul can truly flourish. It provides the psychological air that allows someone to breathe again. When we hold this space for another, we are practicing the ultimate habit of effectiveness seeking first to understand. Finally, the responsibility of intuition calls us to action. It is not enough to simply see. We must be prepared to serve. If your intuition tells you that someone is drowning in silence, the principle of contribution requires you to reach out. This doesn't mean offering unsolicited advice often. It means offering the gift of your presence and your continued, non-judgmental witness. It is a long-term investment in the human spirit by honoring the responsibility of your intuition. You are affirming the worth and potential of every person you encounter. You are acting as a lighthouse, providing a steady beam of principled understanding in a world that is often dark and confusing. This is the path of the true leader, one who sees with the heart and acts with the soul. To truly master this vision, we must move toward the fifth keynote, silencing the ego, to see the soul. True sight begins with the humility of listening. Most of us are so busy with our internal dialogue, our autobiographical responses. Our I can top that stories that we never actually hear the other person. We are blinded by our own projections. We look at others not as they are, but as we are. If you want to see into someone, you must first clear the windshield of your own spirit. You must be willing to suspend your judgments, your biases, and your need to be right. Silencing the ego is not a sign of weakness. It is the ultimate expression of internal strength. It is the ability to be influenced by another without losing your own center. It is a character-driven discipline. When the ego is loud, it acts as a filter that distorts the reality of the person standing before you. You see only their mistakes, their weaknesses, or how they might serve your purposes. But when the ego is silent, you create a vacuum of understanding that the other person's soul naturally rushes to fill. You move from the personality ethic of looking good to the character ethic of being good. This process requires a deep level of self-mastery. We must be aware of our own scripts, those deep-seated patterns of thought that make us want to judge or categorize. When someone speaks, do you immediately begin to evaluate? Do you probe with a motive? Or do you listen with your eyes and your heart, as well as your ears? To silence the ego is to practice empathetic listening at its highest level. It is about being fully present in the now, without the baggage of the past or the anxiety of the future. It is about seeing the other person as a thou, a sacred individual with their own unique map of the world. When we silence the ego, we create synergy. We stop competing for the right answer and start searching for the best answer. We recognize that the other person's perspective is a vital piece of a larger truth. This is the foundation of interdependence. It is the realization that my way and your way can lead to a better way. But this can only happen if we are willing to be humble. Humility is the mother of all virtues because it allows us to learn, to grow, and to connect. A proud man cannot see into another because he is too busy looking at himself. This discipline is especially vital in moments of conflict. When the ego is triggered, it wants to defend, to attack, or to withdraw. But the principled leader chooses a different path. They choose to go inside out, checking their own heart before they address the behavior of the other. They ask, what is it about me that is preventing me from seeing this person clearly? By taking responsibility for our own internal state, we regain the power to influence others effectively. We move from a reactive posture to a proactive one, ultimately. Silencing the ego is an act of profound respect. It is saying to the other person, your reality is just as valid as mine. Your story matters. When people feel this kind of deep, silent respect, they are transformed. They begin to see themselves through the lens of your belief in them. You become a social mirror that reflects their highest potential rather than their lowest failures. By quieting the noise of your own self-importance, you allow the quiet music of another's soul to be heard. This is where the magic of human connection truly lies, in the silent spaces where one soul meets another, unburdened by the ego, and finds the common ground of truth. Finally, we arrive at the catalyst for transformation, the realization that simply being seen, truly and deeply, is the exact spark a person needs to begin their own journey of healing and change. When you offer someone the gift of your undivided, principled attention, you are doing more than just observing. You are participating in a creative act. You are providing the fertile soil in which their primary greatness can grow. Often, the greatest barrier to a person's progress is the feeling of being invisible or misunderstood. By choosing to see into them, you remove that barrier. You validate their existence and their potential, often before they can even see it for themselves. This is the ultimate high leverage activity. It doesn't require a position of formal authority. It requires a heart of servant leadership. When you sit with a child, a spouse, or a colleague, and you look past their current behavior to the person they are capable of becoming, you are acting as a visionary. You are seeing the seed of the oak tree within the acorn. This kind of vision is contagious. When people feel seen, they begin to see themselves differently. They move from a state of dependence or counter-dependence to a state of healthy interdependence. They begin to believe that they have something of value to contribute. Transformation is never a quick fix. It is a process of growth that follows natural laws. You cannot harvest what you have not sown by seeing into others. You are sowing the seeds of trust, respect, and unconditional love. This is the inside-out approach to change. You are not trying to fix them from the outside. You are providing the psychological air that allows them to fix themselves from the inside. This requires immense patience and a long-term perspective. It means being willing to stay with them in the winter of their struggle, trusting that the spring of their potential will eventually bloom. Think of the power of a single moment of genuine connection. It can change the trajectory of a life. It can give someone the courage to try one more time, to forgive one more person, or to pursue a dream they had long since abandoned. This is the synergy of the soul, where the combination of your vision and their potential creates a reality that neither could achieve alone. It is the highest expression of our human capacity. When we truly see into another, we are not just witnesses to their transformation, we are partners in it. This transformative power is available to each of us every single day. It doesn't require special training. It requires a commitment to principles. It requires us to sharpen the saw of our own character so that we can be a clear and steady light for others. We must be willing to be the transition person in our families and organizations, the one who stops the flow of negative, reactive behavior and starts a new legacy of proactive understanding. By choosing to see the best in others, we eventually bring out the best in ourselves. In the end, what it feels like to see into people is the feeling of coming home to our own humanity. It is the realization that we are all part of a larger whole, governed by the same eternal truths. As you go out into the world, I challenge you to look deeper. Look past the masks, past the labels, and past the behaviors. See the soul, affirm the worth. Practice the humility of listening. By doing so, you will not only transform the lives of those around you, you will find that your own life has been enriched beyond measure. You will find that in the act of truly seeing another, you have finally found the clarity to see yourself